Hello people in the house doing. Today I have sad news, which I found on my live stream yesterday. So everybody has to understand the moment in time that the defence forces, the men and women of the defence forces have no fault in this. It's not their fault that the defence forces are in a mess. And everybody in this country has huge respect for them. I have huge respect for every man and every woman in the defence forces. But it's the government, it's the Ministry for Defence. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue how to run an army. They don't have a clue how to maintain an army. And this is what I'm going to say, the next thing that's going to shock a lot of people. In the first 4 months of this year, how many soldiers do you think left the army? In the Navy and in the Air Corps and in the army. 300 people left the army. And more to come. Next month could be 170, they estimate. And it used to be 10,000 in the army, in active service for Ireland. Used to be. I use the word used to be. There's only 8,800 left. 2 years. Lost 2,000 men and women of the defence forces. 2,000. Not because they were tired. Because they left area. Because of how bad and how neglected they're getting by this government. And I'm asking the ministry, I really want a response. And the Ministry for Defence say, oh, there's no problem, they got a pay rise. The pay rise they got wouldn't give them a chicken. And that's as simple as that. And I'm not going to put that. And people are using that money, the pay rise they got. And they're saving every cent of it. They nearly put themselves homeless to leave the army because they want to get out of it so badly. And the Minister for Defence, along with Liam Falk, along with Michael D. Higgins, who's the Commander-in-Chief of the Army, has nothing to say. Especially that Commander-in-Chief of the Army. He's a disgrace. I wouldn't even allow him to be in charge of a chicken, Michael D. Higgins. I don't even know now. He doesn't understand. He really doesn't understand. If I was president, and if this guy, I said it so many times, I would resign so badly. I would try and sort out the army. I would do my huge best. But if I couldn't sort it out, and if it was in this state that's in, I would literally resign. I would not take a pension or nothing for it. Because I would be so upset. Because I am so upset. Every video I have to cover, it's either something to neglect the army, the government has. Last week, it was them changing outside in the street, because why not? We should show disrespect to the army, why not? And showing up the army, and the government even, it's a joke. Then they have 2 naval ships docked in a port, for God knows how long, and God knows how long they're going to be kept there. And the Air Corps, they have new equipment coming, right? There's nobody to use the equipment, because there's nobody in the Air Corps nearly now. And there's a lack of staff in the Air Corps. And in the army, they haven't got nearly anybody to do duties around the army bases. I think it's mad. And people are sleeping outside the army bases because they can't afford to pay for the petrol to go home. It's a joke. It's not even a joke. It's out in unbelievable disrespect. And I use that word so harshly. It's unbelievable. It's not the men and women of the Irish Defence Force don't question their leaders. And you know what I say to them? You should start questioning them. Because they don't seem to know. And I wouldn't give them respect. I wouldn't even salute the President of Ireland. If I seen him now, I say, what kind of a Commander-in-Chief are you? I wouldn't put you in charge of a coffee shop. And as simple as that. Because why would you salute him? I know the soldiers of Ireland have huge respect. And has to have huge respect for the Commander-in-Chief. But he's treating you bad, along with the government. And I wouldn't serve under them. And as simple as that. Unless they pick up their axes. Because seriously, they've been taken advantage of. The men and women have no say. They can't fight. They can't go out and protest. They can't go out and strike. They can't do anything. They can just sit there and take what they're given. And that's really as simple as that. That's all they can do. And the men and the women, wives of the defence forces, some men who are women, the women who are in the defence force, their husbands have to speak. Because the men and the women of the Irish Defence Forces can't speak. Because they have no duty to speak. They're not allowed to speak. And, but, you know what? Because the government just doesn't care. And I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't get what they're doing. I honestly don't get it. Why, as I said, and I said it so many times, they have 50 million going towards new equipment. I'm going to say this to the government. Next budget that's coming up this year in October. Forget about the 50 million for new equipment and for upgrading equipment. Use that money to pay the men and women of the defence forces, and not to give a damn about the equipment, because at the moment in time I couldn't care if the Irish Army hadn't even got a gun. As long as they were healthy and happy, the soldiers of the Irish Defence Forces, I couldn't care if they never had a gun in their life. As long as they get paid, because the one thing you need to show the soldiers who are out doing hard labour and not getting any tax for it, because that's what the government are doing, not thanking the soldiers for their service to this country. And I don't care about the government to say they have to have weapons, they have to have bullets. Their lives come first. People's lives come first. Nobody's likely to attack Ireland in the next 30 years. Nobody's likely to do anything. There's my solution. Use that 50 million next year to pay the soldiers at least a bit of extra, some kind of decent wage, instead of giving them wabbit money. Because literally, they might as well go out and get wabbit food and give it to them. Because that's literally what they're treating them like. And I don't mean any disrespect to soldiers, or any soldiers of the Irish Defence Forces, but it's an outrage. It's really, really an outrage how bad they be treating. And you can loads of people could say, they have to be treated like this. They are soldiers. They have to put up with this. Nobody should put up with this malnourishment. This is worse than put in prison. People in prison get better lives than this. I'm not saying this because I know it, because it's a fact. Simple as that. People in Mountjoy get better treatment than what they do in the Defence Forces. And that's all I'm going to say.